Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've ever found yourself staring blankly at a new Google Doc, pulling your hair out over a spreadsheet, or just spending way too long trying to draft the perfect email, you are exactly in the right place today. We're going to master Gemini AI, and we're doing it right inside the Google Workspace apps you're already using every single day. The goal here is simple. We want to take you from feeling completely overwhelmed by all this artificial intelligence stuff to feeling super confident. We're going to turn this tech into your own personal productivity sidekick.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's a quick look at our agenda for today's explainer. We'll be running through the rules of engagement, using Gemini in Docs and Gmail, then Sheets and Slides, the perfect prompt formula, and finally a real-world application.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Rules of Engagement. Now, before we start generating docs and designing cool presentations, we absolutely have to talk about safety. AI is crazy fast, but honestly, it isn't always right. And this brilliantly illustrates our first rule. Never use Gemini for definitive professional advice. So say you ask it for the latest GST rules for exports. It's going to give you an answer, but you always need to double-check that on the official government portal. If you tell it, calculate my income tax exactly, there is no way around it. You are setting yourself up for some major errors. Instead, a much better approach is to ask, explain how income tax is calculated in India. Use it to learn the framework, not to do your localized accounting for you.
And then we have the absolute golden rule of privacy. When you're interacting with Gemini, and especially if you're giving feedback on a prompt, you must never share confidential info. I mean it. Keep your passwords, bank details, your PAN card, Aadhaar number, and definitely any customer data completely out of the chat. Basically, treat the AI like a stranger on the street. You wouldn't just hand a stranger your bank details, right? So definitely don't hand them to the AI either.
Moving right along to Section 2, Gemini in Docs and Gmail.
Okay, with the guardrails firmly in place, let's get to the fun stuff. If you're someone who suffers from blank page syndrome, your workflow is literally about to change. Let's say you need to draft a brand new proposal from scratch in Google Docs. The click path is so incredibly simple. You just open your document, look for that magical little button that says Help Me Write, click it, type in your prompt, hit Create, and just watch it draft the whole thing for you. Once it looks good, you click Insert, and boom, it drops right in. It really is that seamless.
But hey, what if you've already written something and it's just, a little clunky? Well, Gemini is also a fantastic editor. Let's say you've got a paragraph that's just dragging on forever. You just highlight that text, click that exact same Help Me Write button, and you can pick options like shorten to give it some punch, or summarize if you want to turn a massive block of text into a quick summary. Literally a couple of clicks and your editing is done.
Now let's take that exact same magic and drop it into Gmail. We all know how stressful it is trying to strike the perfect tone in an email, right? Well, with Gemini and Gmail, if your draft feels a little off, you have some amazing options to fix it. If you completely hate it, just hit Recreate and it'll spin up a totally new version. But you can also just tweak the tone, make it more formal for a brand new client, more friendly for a coworker, or just tell it to make the whole thing shorter or longer. It is a total game changer for your inbox.
All right, Section 3, Gemini in Sheets and Slides.
So, we've totally mastered text, but what about numbers? Now, what's really interesting about this is how simple organizing data in Google Sheets becomes. You do not need to build tracking templates manually anymore. None of that. You just give Gemini a prompt, and it instantly generates a structural table for you, like tracking months, sales, and profit. It builds out the framework, all the rows, all the columns, in seconds. Then you just drop in your data. It's a massive time saver.
And then over in Google Slides, Gemini basically becomes your own personal graphic designer. Look, we have all spent hours scouring the internet for that one specific stock photo, right? You don't have to do that anymore. Gemini lets you create custom AI images instantly, right inside your slide deck. You literally just type out a description of what you want to see.
Oh, and you aren't just stuck with one boring generic look. Once you type in your prompt, you can actually pick from a bunch of different visual styles to match whatever vibe your presentation has going on. You can ask for hyper-realistic photography, a really soft watercolor look, a clean illustration, or even a hand-drawn sketch. It's the whole shebang. You have complete creative control.
Let's move to Section 4 and see how this all builds together with the perfect prompt formula. Okay, so you've seen what Gemini can do, but to actually unlock those crazy good results, you need the secret sauce. And that is your prompt. The AI is truly only as good as the instructions you give it. So, what makes a perfect prompt? Well, it's all about giving crystal clear, detailed instructions that are just packed with context. If you just tell Gemini, write an email, you are going to get a super generic, boring email. The more precise background details and guidelines you feed it, the better the output is going to be. You really have to guide it.
So, here is the absolute ultimate 5-part formula for getting the best results. Ready? It's role, task, context, tone, and output format. First, you give the AI a role to play, say, expert marketer. Then the task, write a product description. Next is context. It's for a new summer clothing line. Then you set the tone, enthusiastic and friendly. And finally, the output format, a 3-paragraph text with bullet points. Honestly, if you use this exact formula, your results are going to be spectacular every single time.
Which brings us to our final stop, Section 5, Real-World Application. Let's take all these concepts and formulas and ground them in reality, okay? Let's imagine a small business called SS Digital India. If you're running this business, Gemini basically acts as your entire back-office team. Need to launch something new? Gemini is writing your product descriptions and Etsy listings and docs. Running a campaign? It's drafting your Facebook ads and YouTube scripts. Talking to clients? It's handling your daily emails. Trying to track revenue? It's building sales trackers and sheets. Pitching investors? It's making custom visuals for presentations. It literally touches every single part of the daily workflow.
So, the crucial point is perfectly captured right here in this summary matrix. This is your ultimate cheat sheet. Google Docs is your engine for writing, rewriting, and summarizing. Gmail is there to draft and refine your communication. Sheets is going to organize your data and build custom trackers. And Slides? That's what elevates your visual communication with instant AI imagery. By mastering these tools and actually using those perfect prompts, you're not just working a little faster, you are totally eliminating the busy work that bogs you down every day. So I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question. With Gemini handling the drafting, the formatting, the daily grind, what are you going to build with all that reclaimed time? Dive in, use those rules of engagement, try out the prompt formula, and start transforming how you work today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and we will see you next time.